everyone. Welcome to another edition of Sports Firing Line. We've been preempted because of the Leafs. Not anymore. As I look over at Joe Conlon to my left, and well, we saw Dick Prescott briefly. Now we see Joe Conlon and Chris Dawson. The theme tonight is, well, minor hockey, largely because Dick is the president, and congratulations on that, the new president of the NOHA, which is a pretty prestigious body that covers minor hockey all across Northern Ontario, which is a big area to cover. And we're also going to talk about a little bit about the NHL before we get to the minor hockey stuff. Also, we'll have an interview on tape I did late last week with Brian McDonald, who's kind of like the chief coach for West Ferris minor hockey. A lot of controversy, of course, involving there's always, hasn't there been a controversy involving minor hockey since minor hockey first started? But before we get to all that, Joe, Satellite Dish Joe Conlon wants to talk a little bit about the Leafs and his undying love for Pat Quinn.
Well, hey, I have nothing wrong, no problem with Quinn. I thought Quinn did a fine job.
Okay. Then what was the problem?
Problem?
They're too old and they don't have enough defense.
Well, yeah, I think you hit you hit it right twice there. Their defense, you know, I don't think they had enough depth on defense. I think McCabe and Leach, Caberlet not too bad. Aki Berg actually I don't think played too bad in the playoffs. But up front there, you look at up front and you have Antropov. Why is Antropov playing a regular shift?
That goes back to the coach, though.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. That's a good point. But I don't know. I don't know. They had a good run. I really thought they could have beat Philadelphia, but I think the game in Philadelphia, Game 5, when they got blown out, that was a turning point for sure.
That was a ridiculous effort.
You can't get blown out and play like that.
Play like that.
With a game like that on the line, absolutely.
All right, Chris's favorite team is Dallas. They've been gone since, I don't know, about March. So, but a quick salute to the Calgary Flames.
Well, that's my regional team. It was where I grew up. Yeah. So it's great to see. And I mean, I know a lot of my friends back home. They've had a long drought from even winning a series, let alone getting this far. And hockey, they are absolutely hockey crazy in Calgary, and it's great to see, and even better to see Steve Monador. I remember two years ago going in April with Rink Rat TV and interviewing a couple players, and interviewed Steve Monador, and it probably was his only interview he did all year on television. And it was for a station in Ontario, and now here he is scoring an overtime winning goal, and that's really great to see him playing so well, stepping up with Gauthier out and getting all the big minutes.
It's interesting too. Here's a guy who was, I used to say, he's the kind of guy who makes big plays for both teams. He was a fringe OHLer, really. I mean, let's be honest.
He was a third rounder, but he didn't play up to that.
No, and he was a player with talent, but again, I'm really mistake prone, and he bounced around a bit, but somehow, through some coaching somewhere, and him hanging in there, he's made himself into an NHL player, and I just think that's fabulous.
And I remember him after that practice 2 years ago when he was just called up from the American Hockey League, and I remember him staying after practice, I would say about 45 minutes to an hour. It was him and I think maybe it was Commodore even right when he came, but it was another young defenseman anyways, and they were working with Brad McCrimmon on the defensive part of the game, and I know Brad McCrimmon's not part of the coaching staff in Calgary anymore, but I'm sure that was probably a big help for him, and he was a hard worker, and I don't know if he was that much of as hard a worker when he came here, but I think he learned somewhere along the way, whether it was in Erie or whether it was in Peterborough. I mean, this is a guy who played overage hockey as a defenseman and undrafted in the National Hockey League, and here he is now. You know,
I mean, he's not starring, but he's playing
but
well.
I mean, I've heard the announcers say now, no matter what happens with Gauthier and their defense next year, Steve Monador will have a regular job in the National Hockey League. He's a top 6 defenseman now, so give credit to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, somebody got into his head and made him realize, like you said, that through hard work, if he's not the most talented guy in the world, hard work can take you a long way.
And unfortunately, a role reversal with a former teammate of his, Rob Davison, who was starting to play fairly well, getting a regular shift with San Jose during the regular season. Now he's playing against Steve, but he's one of the Black Aces. I don't think he's even played a playoff game, but he was starting to get some good minutes with San Jose. But I guess they wanted to go with some more experience, even though they have a rookie, Tom Preissing, playing now too. But
whatever the coach likes best, I guess. We're going to get into the minor hockey aspect of the show. Before we actually take calls, we're going to run an interview that I did last week with Brian McDonald, who's, I guess, the chief coach for the West Ferris Minor Hockey Association. I went to one of their regular meetings last week, and the ones who didn't want to talk or scurry out of the room when they saw the camera, he came forward to his credit, and I asked him a lot of questions. It's a fairly lengthy interview. Kyle Sell is going to roll that for us now, and when we come back from that, we'll take some calls and questions.
It's become way more political. The cost has changed, the aspects of the game and everything. So,
but you're still here with it. Why is that?
You know, you get involved. I like kids. I have kids. Somebody's got to do the job, so we do what we have to do.
Now, this is obviously, as you said, a very political situation. People in North Bay have been, they phone in our call-in shows and stuff like that, and they want to know about AAA and why there's not enough AAA in North Bay. Some have said numbers. Some said there's still, room for it. What's your take on that?
I think AAA could be viable somewhere down the road, not this point in time right now. We have to work on developing some coaches, which leads us into developing players, which would help the Trappers and, of course, the athletics up. And until we reach that, and we're involved with some things with Glenn Kandari and some of the other guys, with the coaches, whatever you want to call it, I guess they're forming a group. And we're going to work within that group. A lot of guys have been involved for a lot of years, and we're going to try and move that on.
The Nugget ran a series of articles about minor hockey, about parents, about referees, and have the parents changed over the 25 years you've been involved?
Sure. I mean, 25 years ago when I coached, parents brought their kids, they came, everybody wanted to have fun. Now, the bottom line is that at most levels, if you don't win, they think winning is everything, and that's not everything. It's the social aspects you learn as a player. How to interact with your teammates, all those types of things make it better as you move down the line in life. And that's gone. We've lost sight of that.
Can it ever change back?
Sure it can. We get the right coaches, we get the right guys back involved in town. There's all kinds of guys, John Weber, Louis Ricci, Joey Omicelli. We get all these types of guys back. We get them involved, the guys that understand. They grew up in that era. When we get them back involved, things will change.
Now, I know when I went to high school at Whitfield 25 years ago, there was 1,400 students. Now there's about 9. And other high schools have gone down in size. And I guess the numbers of kids playing hockey has gone down for a variety of reasons. Aging population, the cost. Has that been a factor?
Sure it is. It's a factor because most people, economics, to play nowadays. 25 years ago when we were playing, for $500, that was your whole year. Now, for a lot of these AA players, AAA players, it's $5,000. Their parents, you got tournaments, you got meals on the road, you got all those things. Skates are, $400. Back then we bought skates for $60. All those things.
Sticks are $400.
Yeah, you're right. Sticks, $400 sticks. And those things, all these little things, Greg, they all add up and they all make a little difference, and that's what's happening. So we got to start tearing those blocks back down and getting back to the grassroots and bringing it back down to where hockey's fun. Sure, it's important to win because, you learn from winning. But winning isn't the end, and it isn't the end of everything if you lose. So you have to learn to understand that.
The last couple of years, the Trappers have gone south, and yet Kirkland Lake's still a pretty good team. New Liskeard's usually a pretty good team. Cap's usually a pretty good team in AAA midget. Why are their programs going along, fairly well in this? And our AAA midget program has really been in the dumps, and so has the AAA Bantam program.
What's happened here over a period of time, and I'm not criticizing anybody, and I don't want to be taken that way. It's mostly what's happened is we've lost some coaches that should be at that level. Our fault as an executive, we've not developed coaches. We have to put a game plan in. We have to have building blocks. We have to give the coaches something to work with so they can, and train them and educate them so they can then educate the players. And that's half of it. And the other half is then we have to develop players. I mean, Randy and Glenn can't win if I don't, you can teach a guy where to go, but if we don't develop players, they're not there, right? So that's what's hurting those guys right now.
All right, we're back. First, I want to get to Dick Prescott and ask Dick what he thought about those comments and, your feelings on that, being the NOHA guy and been a guy who's been involved in minor hockey forever.
He makes some interesting comments, and I would have to agree with everything he said, and I probably, in some circumstances, would expand on it, but I have to agree with what Brian's saying. You know, the bodies are going, and we have to tackle those problems. We know that. We're aware of it. But there's some interesting figures that we've had handed to us this year that we knew other years but maybe didn't look at, and the big dropout is in Pee Wee. And a lot of people didn't realize that. A lot of people are zeroing in on midget and bantam and saying, hey, that's where we're losing. No, our numbers drop across the country in Pee Wee. And we know that, and there are committees looking into it. There are other groups that are working behind the scenes. It's a huge business. Mm-hmm. And that's what, and I use that term business because when you get to the level where I'm sitting now, that's what it is. And no two parents are alike. And you go to the rink and you look, and you have to shake your head sometimes. I'm not always right, and I've made some enemies, and I'm wrong. But I also have to point very strongly that what you hear being said in the arenas right now, they're just narrow-minded. Mm-hmm. And they're looking at that big picture. My boy's going to go to the NHL. Well, look at the stats and look at the figures. And you know, it's very tough for me to go into the arena now as a grandfather, and that's one thing I vowed I would do, and this year I'm going to do it.
One thing I want to say, to expand on what Brian is saying, he's talking about developing coaches, which is a great point, and I agree with him 100%. And you take that and you say, why are coaches leaving? Why aren't qualified people getting involved, and why aren't they coaching? Well, the way this is only a matter of opinion, but if you look at what's happened in the last, let's say, 10 to 15 years, 10 to 15 years ago, you would have a coach who, the way the coach ran a hockey club, on and off the ice, the kids listened and the parents listened. Nowadays, what I'm finding as I get more and more involved is I see parents who are far too vocal, and if things don't go their way, and he's talking about winning, and he's right. He's talking about parents who demand winning, and if they don't win, if that hockey club doesn't go, who do they blame? It's just like in the pros. They blame the coaches. So, but they take it to a level where these are volunteers. These coaches are volunteers volunteering their time, and they're getting nothing but criticism. And the stories that we could tell you right here are unbelievable. I'm not going to get into individual stories, but the stories are just absolutely horrendous what coaches have to deal with. And that's why coaches aren't staying with the program and going through, and that's why we're losing coaches. And that goes back to what Brian was saying on the screen. When they leave, then you know the players aren't being developed at a proper level. So to me, the problem is parents, hands down.
And how have they changed, Joe, from the time when your dad supported you playing hockey?
That's a good question. And the way I see it, and I can relate it to just society. Teachers, for example, okay? My wife's a school teacher. What she has to go through, and the power parents have today, is incredible. It's nuts. It's when I was in grade school and in minor hockey, I would not even consider talking back to a coach or a teacher. Not even consider it, because I knew the ramifications of it. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, kids are telling their teachers in grade 3 to F off. They're using in grade 3, and the same thing's happening in minor hockey. 10-year-old kids are talking back to their coaches. 10-year-old kids, and they're getting the support of their own parents. Their parents are going home and they're saying,
encouraging them to act
this way. So what is that's the problem.
That's not a hockey issue. That's a societal issue.
And Joe, you see that walk in the street. My wife and I walk all the time. You see them in the street. They almost run over with their bikes, and you say, please watch where you're going, and the language that comes out and what they say. Yeah. They say it's society. And the problem with minor hockey is we have to regiment because of harassment, and there's all kinds of things. Yeah. Some questions people ask, why doesn't the coach go into the dressing room? Why? Because he's encouraged not to go until 10 minutes till the boys are dressed and ready to go. That's our rules. That's not the individual. Don't knock some coach out there that stands outside the door and waits 10 minutes before the game and goes in the dressing room. And that's the kind of complaints that I hear. I don't have the time of day for those people. No. And you know, unfortunately, that most of those
is it a rule they can't go in?
Well, they're advised not to because of the harassment and abuse. We've even a new issue we've had now is people going in with the new phones to take pictures. They're not allowed in the dressing rooms, and that every association has to have.
I see that, but still, shouldn't a coach be talking to a player?
Oh yeah, no, he does. He does. He goes in for his warm-up, but not while they're getting dressed. I'm speaking of a half an hour before. Some coaches I know go in 15 minutes before the game time, which is plenty good enough. He wants the boys ready at that time. He goes. But the problem where the criticism is coming from is 90% of them never played the game themselves, and they're looking at themselves through their boys. And I can tell you right now, most of the trouble I've had with the specific parents, and I'm not going to get into names neither, that's the problem. They've never played the game themselves.
How does that affect the situation in North Bay in comparison to like the AAA question? Because I mean, there's got to be bad hockey parents in the Sioux, there's got to be bad hockey players in Kirkland Lake and in Sudbury and wherever. They have AAA programs at the lower levels. Is that the save-all for the North Bay elite programs?
Well, I'll touch on my opinion, then I'd like to hear what Dick has to say from an NOHA perspective. But if you look back when North Bay minor hockey was running, how long was North Bay minor hockey here? 15 years?
Yeah.
10, 15 years. And you look at the teams when they started at the novice AAA level, and they went all the way up to the Tim Horton 33s or whatever they became, the midget AAA system, all the way through. You had a place for the elite player. And those elite players, they played AAA all the way up. So they were competing against AAA players all the way up. What's happening now is West Ferris minor hockey, and I don't think it's going to change, but they're only running a AA program. All of a sudden, these kids get to the Bantam level.
Oh, I know. We know the story's a familiar one.
And then they have to play a Bantam AAA. Now, I didn't hear Mr. McDonald address that. I'd like to hear what he had to say regarding the feeder system, because I believe it starts with you need a feeder system.
And yeah, Joe, I mean, we've talked about this a lot of times. I mean, some of the great, in my experience on our show, I mean, going and seeing how different programs like the Marlies system, the Thunder Bay Kings, even as close as the Sudbury Northern Wolves. I mean, these AAA teams are starting together. These kids are growing together at I think even as young as Adam. Some start at the Pee Wee AAA
I know,
level.
but just hold on a second. We all agree there should be hockey at a lower level. Why isn't it here, Dick? And can it go back to that? I'm not trying to diffuse what you're saying. I'm just saying we all realize what they have in the other cities. North Bay had it. When I interviewed you last week, you said North Bay was feared. Hockey-wise,
Back when Butch Turcotte started the first year, I came along with Dennis Trudeau the second year, and then Louis Reese and the Wright boys came in early at stage 2, and we had one of the best tournaments here. They were cut from all over North America. They wanted to come here because we had the talent here. We would go down and we would beat Mississauga. We went to Ottawa and beat them with the Broadloom Hockey Club in Pee Wee and beat them 3-2, and they didn't even know where North Bay was. and we had where the elite player was allowed to form. Our numbers are down now, and what has happened is that in the north we don't have AAA hockey in Pee Wee or in novice or Adam anyplace. Okay. In the south, even the GTHL, they don't have rep hockey in novice.
Right.
And so what is left here is the Sudbury and the Sioux have a minor Pee Wee AAA and a major AAA, and they have it in Bantam. And we don't. We only have the Bantam and in North Bay. And I can't speak for North Bay itself, but I speak for across the north. And you know, we have 9 districts, and we have to have player residential rules and restriction, because if you don't, you kill the whole system. And can it ever come back? Yeah, I think it will. I think it's like anything else. It's the wheel that rolls around. It's got to come back with the right people. Maybe in 2 years I can stir up some of the old friends we had. Right now I have 1,000 teams I have to worry about. I have to worry about the north. But is Dick Prescott going to get involved at the AAA hockey level? Is it ever going to come back to North Bay? When I'm out of this chair, probably I will take a stab at it again. But right now, I'm for all categories. I think there's a place for all categories, and it's been allowed to die a slow death. But remember in North Bay when we had the back-to-back tournaments, 2 weekends in a row, you couldn't get a room in this town. And we were competitive.
It wasn't all that long ago.
No, it wasn't that long ago. And it ran for 20 years. And then, you know, at the end, it was the old story. There was 2 people, Butch Turcotte, myself, my wife, his wife, and a few other people would come out to help, and that was it. Nobody else anymore. Nobody else wants to. They just want to go to the rink, play the games, and then so be it. You get what you reap what you sow.
Yeah, I guess in recent memory, the last group of quality players, actually, I guess there was probably about 3 or 4 of them that got drafted, not this year, but last year into the OHL, were a group that started up with Guy Blanchard and played with them basically all the way to the Athletics until Guy started with the Skyhawks initiative. You know, you got Cassidy Preston, who was a 4th-round pick of St. Mike's. You have Michael Lalonde, who was a late draft pick of Sarnia, I believe. TJ Foster was another one, and I believe there's one more, and I apologize if I can't remember who the 4th one was. But all these kids played together under, I mean, obviously we know that Guy Blanchard's a solid coach, and these kids developed under him. But then this year we look, and I mean, there's not even a kid drafted in the OHL from North Bay, and there's not even a kid invited to the main under-17 camp.
I just want to mention
Northern Ontario, which is probably never happened.
Hold on, time out, just for a second. I just want to mention the show is live. We'd love to hear you.
Sure,
I didn't mean to cut anybody off, even though I always do. I want to, especially Chris. Yeah. Well, come on. 472-9868, 472-4959. If you have some input, some questions on minor hockey or anything else, please give us a call. Dick, go ahead.
You know, you can roll right back to the last year that we had Broadland by Todd after we won the national midgets here. Went with Broadland by Todd, then the throughway muffler, and the last team we had was Hal's Marine. There was a club that won the NOHA 7 years in a row. 7 years in a row. Craig Rive, Mike Berman, Jeremy Brown, who was playing in the pros on it, and Shanette. A lot of them went on to university, and there was some nice hockey players on there.
Who coached that team?
Butch and Louis.
Butch and well, it started out. I think the Wrights. That was the point I was going to make. They had a lot of different coaches. They had the Wrights. They had Casabon, Bruce for a while. They had Butch the last two. Butch and I had them the last 2 years. We raffled a boat. We took them to Europe. And we came back, and those kids were drafted, but they were there to play. They wanted to play hockey, and there was no jealousy about, well, one's better than the other. They played as a team, and they helped each other out. And this is a team game. And if you're not going to play it as a team, then good luck.
Dick, what and this is no disrespect towards high school hockey, but how much does the impact of high school hockey, and I mean, where I grew up in southern Alberta, we didn't have high school hockey. How much does that impact the higher levels? I know last couple years there's been a few quality trapper kids have decided they wanted to play, whether it was a problem with the trapper brass or what, I don't know, but a few quality players ended up moving on to play high school hockey. And I mean, high school hockey has always been fairly popular. I mean, it's probably not as popular as it was before, but how does that impact the higher levels of hockey?
I think the last 2 years it's had a huge impact. Here in North Bay, that's my opinion, it has. But I go back to the Broad and Tall when my boy, Sean, played for Scholar Hall, and Batondis, and a lot of those boys played for Scholar Hall, and there was some good high school hockey.
All of this, and they had the AAA and they had the high school.
And we had them all. So the numbers are down a little bit, but there's so many more things for kids to do nowadays too. I mean, let's face it. Skidooing back then wasn't what it was now. You had a cottage, you used it 4 months out of the year. Now it's 12 months out of the year. They go in by Skidoo, and there's so many more things for them to do.
And the expense is another big issue.
Oh, the expense is huge now.
Joking, both of you guys can probably address this. I hear a lot of stories about the issue of ice time here. A lot of teams having to go out of town at unusual hours just to practice. I think the Athletics were even practicing in Warren at some point this year. Has it ever been thought up to try to bring back the early morning practices for some of these teams to kind of help out with the practice schedule and the fact that we don't have a lot of ice pads around here? I hear there's not many early morning practices anymore, and I remember that's how I grew up with the Grimmage. I'm sure the same with Joe.
6 in the morning.
I used to go to the West Ferris Arena 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Now they just won't. They won't go. And I mean, I know of one team, the parents were allowed to decide when they were going to practice versus a Saturday versus a Sunday. And the team that goes to Trout Creek and Astorville too, because the ice is there, it's competitive price, and what's one place you rent for, you get the fifth one free. And now with the 4-lane highway to Trout Creek, that's not it.
It doesn't take a whole heck of a lot of time to get to Trout Creek.
But still, the bottom line is it's in your own backyard. What's wrong with a 7 o'clock in the morning practice? I don't remember liking getting up in the morning that much, but when I was up, I found I was more invigorated having the workout in the morning and then going to school. So,
Well, one thing I have noticed to back up would say in the mornings, if you go by Double Rink, there's nobody there, and there's prime time in the evening that nobody's there. And I don't
really,
know why. Oh, there's prime time.
I don't think that North Bay really has an ice problem. I've been in the arenas a lot, and I see open ice at Double Rink all the time on a Saturday afternoon.
Really,
I don't think that's a problem. I think it comes down to, like Dick alluded to. Sometimes, again, the coaching staff elects to give the parents a little too much power, and let the parents decide when the practices are.
The inmates are running the asylum. All right, let's go to the phones. Good evening. You're on Sports Firing Line.
Hi. I'm president of the West Ferris Ladies Rec in North Bay here, and we work hard all year to raise money through the snack bar at the West Ferris Arena.
Okay.
This year, we donated 2 hours of ice time to every team, every hockey team in North Bay, every ringette team. We donated to sledge hockey and girls hockey. The 2 hours of ice time that we donated to each team. Not every team used it. We were a little concerned about that, and the reason why it didn't get used was because some of the coaches lost the voucher or just didn't bother booking the ice time.
Lost the voucher. Sorry, educate me on that. What do you mean by that?
Each team was given a voucher.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Each team was given a voucher for 2 hours of free ice time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I know the Adams voucher was used.
Well, a lot of them were, Dick.
Yeah.
And it's just that some weren't, and you were talking earlier about the expense of hockey, and this shouldn't have happened because the parents are footing the bill, and the coaches or managers didn't get around to using the free vouchers, and I just wanted to pass that along. And
interesting.
Good point.
Very interesting point. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Really.
all I had to say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller.
Well, that's a good point, isn't it?
There you
She
go.
makes a good point because they gave every team a voucher for 2 hours.
I know we used
And
that.
they were all aware of it, obviously. They got,
yeah.
I mean, it's
They all
right there.
got it.
It's handed to
It
you.
was in their mail pigeonholes down there.
So is that just simply apathy?
I guess so.
He's going to leave it at that. Look at that look on his face, though. Well, what else? I mean, you talked about, Joe, you wanted to say there's some changes coming to minor hockey. You wanted to talk about that tonight. What changes are coming?
Oh, I don't know, actually. I said there was changes coming to minor
You
hockey.
said there's some new things coming to minor hockey that you want to discuss tonight.
Oh,
He doesn't even remember his own show prep. Isn't that awful?
I'm sorry.
I can bring up
bail
one
them
right
out.
now that Dick
I
might.
could bail them out.
Yeah, bail him out. Bail him out again.
Go ahead, Dick.
I was going to say the one unique thing that the Hockey Canada is looking at is not allowing any kids under 16 to play junior hockey at any level. Like
Well, that's what I
the
wanted to know.
14 or
Just
15-year-olds.
not to cut you
They
off,
can't play.
I knew that Dick had just come back from the NOHA meetings, and I've heard that there's all kinds of rule changes coming out, possible rule changes. A lot of people have talked about that, and I just wanted Dick to
nice try. Relatively good bailing out.
I didn't have the actual
Your bailing
facts.
can has a few holes in it, but it's okay. Your bail not bad.
Let Chris go on. See, now everybody's cutting you off.
What do you think of that? I mean, I guess the finding. One example was Patrick O'Sullivan, and of course he had problems with his parents and everything. I don't know.
That's understandable to hear.
But I mean, he was a 13-year-old when he was playing Junior C in Strathroy as a 13-year-old, and I know even there were some problems in the Western League with a kid that grew up in my town that was supposed to be this next up-and-coming star.
Sheldon Kennedy?
No.
Different kind of problem.
He went to the New Westminster Bruins as a 14-year-old, and he got into all sorts of problems with drugs and everything at a young age. Ended up playing university hockey, was the highest level he played. And then they made a rule change that you had to be 16 to play in the Western Hockey League.
Weren't they drafting guys in the Western League, Chris, at 15?
They were drafting them, I think, at 14 at one point. They're drafting them at 15 right now.
When you're ready, I'll jump in.
Okay, go ahead. You're in.
That's just what are your
Go
thoughts
get him,
on
Dick.
that?
Okay, and we speak of the Cosbys for one example. Those boys will always have a place. They'll always be taken care of. The problem right now is that the numbers are phenomenal of midget players playing in junior hockey. This committee, there was a rule. We tried to bring in a one-year midget rule. Where you couldn't play junior unless you played 1 year midget hockey, and it just didn't work. And what happened was Hockey Canada formed a committee, and it was made up of the president of Hockey Canada, the president of the OHF, but the bulk of those people, 7 out of the 11 voting people, were junior people. So these motions came from them. And technically what it states is that AAA midget, which would be our trappers, let me use them here in North Bay as an example, they would be made up of 15 and 16-year-olds. Okay? The 17-year-old player, some teams would be allowed to have 5 of them. I think the midget teams would be allowed to have that. But the 17-year-olds can play junior hockey, they can play AA, but your AAA will be made up of 15 and 16-year-olds. Each OHL club would be allowed 1 16-year-old. So that takes care of the Cosbys, the elite player, because you never find 15 of them. Now some of these kids, like, just start listening to the age group we're talking about. There are some boys that are playing at 13 years in junior hockey, and some of them are getting a regular shift, and I would argue the point that most of them don't. But they're playing there. So if you've got a boy that's 11, 12, 13, you look at him and just realize how much he would have to prove to go and play on the junior team. On the Skyhawks. And that will let you put your boys' talent in perspective. And maybe then you'd look at the whole game a little more in perspective. Because there's very few of the Cosbys, very few of them. And we personally, in the NOHA, we support that. we support that motion. It's going to Hockey Canada. It's a Hockey Canada motion. It'll be decided the long weekend out in Thunder Bay. There are a couple other rule changes. The red line will be decided there, whether it's going to go all the way through hockey. It's now in all the junior teams. The NOJHA was one of the last teams to change, and that brought everybody into line.
Not in major junior yet, though, right?
No, not in major junior yet. I don't believe.
Not yet. No.
They are a member partner
but it may
at our
happen
board.
in minor hockey, is what you're saying?
Probably.
Yeah.
I believe it may. I know that Hockey Canada's high on it, but and everybody wonders why. Well, you got to look at where their elite programs are. You know, they're financially, economically, those women's hockey and the World Championships are. You know, that's where the development money is going to come from, and they're building a development fund.
Dick?
Juvenile hockey? I guess the only ones left are in the south. There's none in the north, but just hold your breath and count to 55, and maybe something will happen.
Okay, Joe, you're on the clock. Go ahead. Yes. All right. Just want to mention the phones one more time, or maybe a few more times. 472-9868, 472-4959. If you have an opinion or a question of any of us here in the panel, please feel free to give us a call. Any issue relating to minor hockey or any issue relating to sports, but more specifically minor hockey. Dick, when I interviewed you last week, you said something I found rather interesting. You said at one point in the interview, you said, I'm here to do this for the kids. Some people may not believe that, but I'm here to do this for the kids. Who out there wouldn't believe somebody like you wouldn't be doing this for the kids?
When you've been in as long as I have, and I know my good friend Butch Turcotte would agree with me. A lot of them don't like our methods, didn't like our style, but I'm asked a question, I give an answer. And that's the way I intend to operate the NOHA for the next 2 years, and I got some rough roads myself. We got some new people on the board, and that's how I operate. And if you want to ask me a question, I'm approachable, come and ask me. But when I can't go into the rink and watch my own grandson, I get a little edgy, a little touchy, and I'm what I am, and I'm there for 2 years, and I'm going to try to make.
Didn't I pull you away from that then to do the interview? Now I'm starting to feel guilty.
No. It's not that, and believe me, most of the parents out there, 99% of them are great people. They got different methods. I have all the respect in the world for them, and if they come to me with something reasonable and have a reasonable complaint and are above board with it, I have no problems with that, none whatsoever. But some of the people that haven't played the game have to stop and think. They have to stop and think and question whether they have the right to do it. There are some people out there coaching right now who have never had kids in the system. Some of them have coached 4 years before their boy got into the system. And don't just look at it now while he's coaching his own boy and this is how he's doing it. Look back at when he went before. Like, you know, there are hundreds of kids that you can go and ask how a guy treats him, how it works. And no two coaches should have the same methods. And it's their boys, and they certainly have the right to have their opinions and their input.
Yeah, I think of an interesting interesting story when you talk about parents and that haven't played the game and go after the coaches. I was in a place called Whitefish, Montana, where a guy named Murray Craven of the former Flyer and San Jose Shark is one of the major organizers with minor hockey there, and they've just got their first indoor rink, and to see that rink and just the complete opposite. These people weren't even though they're only an hour from the BC border. They really don't follow hockey, and now it's sort of a brand new sport for them, and it's just thriving there. They're getting like kids. I think they've about tripled the amount of kids in minor hockey, and it's a really neat atmosphere to be in, especially when you talk about, you know, a lot of these people that don't know the game. Well, they're listening to Murray Craven. They're saying, well, you know, I don't know a lot about the game. I'm going to let this guy. He played in the NHL. I mean, obviously, you know, we don't have the always the honor of having a guy who's had some National Hockey League experience to lead coaching, but still the fact that these people, these Americans that don't know much about the game, you know, they're very competitive people. You know, we all know Americans are very competitive. These people love what Murray Craven's doing with this program, and now they're playing Canadian teams too, and it seems to be like a really good environment that I saw, that almost just the exact opposite of what you were saying. You know?
And well, in the OHF they're working on a policy now called the In Zone, which is strictly dealing with parents, to educate them, explain it to them. We owe it to them to explain it to them, and to me, they're probably the biggest part of the game. They have to support their boys. Support your own boy. Don't look at somebody else's boy and worry about what he's doing. Support your own boy. And I was asked a very interesting question. Why am I in this game at my age, at 61, a grandfather? Well, why not? Why not? I put 45 years in, and I've made some mistakes, but I don't begrudge a damn thing I've done. Not a thing.
Me neither. Joe, you've got a boy in minor hockey, and my boy's a little too small right now, and maybe my daughter could be playing minor hockey too. I mean, things have changed in that respect.
That's right.
And yes, Kyle wants me to beg for callers. You know what? We're having an interesting discussion here, Kyle. If you'd like to join us, 472-9868, 472-4959. If when Carter's days are done in minor hockey, do you see yourself leaving minor hockey?
You know, that's a good question. That's a really good
That's
question.
why they asked me.
Yeah, that's why you're the Cogeco man.
Yes.
Even though I don't get to see Cogeco.
Look, satellite boy, just answer the. No, seriously.
How do I answer that question? You know what? I'll tell you something. And I'm going to go back to when I first came to North Bay. I came to North Bay as a sportscaster for the radio station.
Yeah, what a sportscaster he was, folks.
Well, I got involved. Actually, I got involved with Dick and Butch with the AAA tournament, and I thought it was fantastic because I had played minor hockey all the way up. I was playing in the men's league here, and I found it remarkable that a community of this size. What I really found the most remarkable was that North Bay, 50,000 people at the time, could win a national midget AAA championship. I just found that absolutely incredible, and the more I learned about who had been all involved with that, the more impressed I became. Now, being involved with that tournament, you know, let's call a spade, was part of my job. A few years later, after I left radio, I was asked by Glenn Rigby, I believe his name was, former president of North Bay Minor Hockey, to get involved in the Kobe Cup, the 1997 Ontario Bantam Championship. So I was a volunteer member of that committee, and that was, I think, the last year under North Bay Minor Hockey. I think that was the last year where we had that association. Is that correct, Dick, or was there one more year after that?
Might have been one more, I think.
Anyway, I learned Laurier Shank was the president. There was Scott Kyle. Dick, you were on the committee that year. We brought the tournament to North Bay. It was a great success. I think it was the Smoking Lotto Athletics at the time. They were competitive. They didn't win, but they were competitive. So I think my involvement there was strictly as a volunteer. Then the World Hockey Championships, or some World Hockey tournament was here. I can't remember what it was.
The World Under 17.
Under 17 Challenge Cup. Yeah.
That, and they had it throughout the north.
That's
they had 2 games here.
Yeah, and I was involved with that. Now that I'm heavily involved, this is the most involved. I've been assistant coach, and I've been a head coach at the house league level with my boy since he was in Hockey for Beginners. So I've seen him go from Hockey for Beginners through the novice house league program, and now at the AA level for 2 years. I love it. It's in my blood. You know, our head coach is Dick's boy. We're on the phone, you know, at least once a day, through sometimes during work hours, but a lot of times at night.
No, I can't believe I heard that.
What that makes it your life. It makes it. It gets into your blood, and I think.
So is that a yes then?
No, it's not a complete yes because I can't guarantee anything. But what I'd like to do is, my future plan is when my son has gone through the system and gone on to do whatever he's going to do in life, and but believe me, it's probably 99.9% sure it's not going to be in the National Hockey League. So you can.
No, that's okay. To me, that's okay.
I'm just speaking as a parent.
As long as he understands that too.
That's right. And I'm speaking as a parent. You know, of course, every parent's dream is to see their kid do well.
Sure.
I just want to see him do the best he can do. I think there should be a place in hockey for a player to play at the top caliber. I think a AA player who's good enough to play AA should be playing AA. I'm going off topic. To get to your question, I'm sorry.
We'll get back to that later.
Probably yes. Probably yes.
All right. Yeah, I mean,
because it's in your blood.
I think you've morphed into Chris Dawson. That's
like it gets in Dick's blood.
Oh, did you hear that?
Another cheap shot.
I shot at you. Yeah. Well, I took the.
That's okay. Hi, you're on a sports firing line. Please go ahead.
Hi, Greg. Perry Olivier here. How's it going?
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, everybody genuflect. Perry Olivier has joined us.
Greg.
Yes, sir.
I'm enjoying your show. I caught it about just before Brian McDonald spoke.
Yep. Well, you've seen the bulk of it then.
Yeah. I got to defend Northern Ontario a bit and North Bay.
Okay.
This year at our draft, I don't know if anyone knows, I've been scouting for about 15 years now in the OHL. It's not just North Bay. It's all of Northern Ontario that's fallen off. The Great North Midget League this year just didn't have the hockey players. The high guys that were drafted this year were in Thunder Bay, where I think 3 or 4 of them went in the first few rounds. 2 kids played in Sudbury Tier 2. And I think the first kid that played midget drafted out of here was a kid that we drafted from Richmond Hill that lives in Sunridge by the name of Kid. And what does that tell you about our system if a kid that lives in Sunridge has to go to Richmond Hill to play midget hockey?
Any suggestions on what direction do you want to take?
If I knew that, I'd do everything I could, but...
you could have my job then.
I think, you know, it's not broken. The kids, I think, are still enjoying the game here in North Bay. There's some real good athletes out there. I get to watch it because my son's going to be a minor Batum this year. There's some hockey players there. What the answer is, I don't know. But, you know, I'm defending North Bay a little bit because it's not just us. It's, you know, Valley East didn't have many players this year. Sioux Midgets, I think the first guy drafted out of there was probably in the 5th or 6th round. So it's not like days where we had Robin Boucher and guys like that. They're just not here in Northern Ontario. It's all of Northern Ontario that's fallen off. It's not just North Bay.
No, you're correct. You're correct, and I never stated North Bay. I think the situation you're talking about, it's across the north, and I think it's in some pockets in the south too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, Thunder Bay is an island on its own, and they're developing hockey players. And if anyone could find out what they do to develop hockey players and mimic their system, I think you got a winning combination there. But you know, I'm glad to see that Brian's looking knows that it's the coaching that needs to be helped out here in North Bay, and you know, I'm hoping it can get turned around because you know, I do get questioned quite a bit when I go down south what's going on with hockey in Northern Ontario, and if I had the answer, I'd help out. But you know, like I say, there are athletes here. You know, I've seen Dick Sun's team play. I've seen Mark Kostrick's kids' team play. Even my son's team, there are some athletes there, and there's some hope. But what it's going to take to turn around, if I knew that answer, I'd be.
And you know, like, and what's very interesting, like you say, at the younger age, there seems to be a lot of talent there, and I agree with you. Like, I'm going out to Thunder Bay on the long weekend, and I have a few contacts, and I want to look at their system to see, because it's a very interesting point you make. They've been strong. They were strong when they came here 20 years ago. Butch Turcotte and I always made sure their teams were here because of the caliber, and they still do that. Mm-hmm. They're still doing that.
And you know what? They have a bit bigger population than we have. Yep. Sudbury, you know, has 200,000 people to pull from. Sault Ste. Marie, 100 and something thousand. The same as Thunder Bay, but you know, for North Bay with 50 or 55,000 people to not have one guy drafted and 300 players that were chosen, we all know the system's broken. So I'm just hoping that I'm hoping Brian is able to get the coaching situation sorted out here in Northern Ontario, or in North Bay especially, and we can start develop players again, because like I say, North Bay is, you know, there's athletes here.
Well, there's some talent in the younger groups you hit on. These clubs played up in the Sudbury Loop, Kostrick's and the Antip team you speak of, and your boys' teams, and they were all very competitive in that Sudbury League.
Yeah, they are, and they're one of the elite teams when they play up there, because they don't have the AAA guys gone. But
they love to play us.
I'm just defending North Bay a bit. I don't think we're that bad off. I think we need a little bit of help and direction, and I'm glad to see that he's doing it with the coaching, and I'd like to see more of the guys that, you know, sit back, and I'm one of them, you know, try and help out with some of the coaching, and you know, unfortunately sometimes our jobs don't enable us to do it, but I don't know, I'm just defending North Bay a little bit, and we're not the only ones up in Northern Ontario that are...
And you know, even though your job, that you're still one of the big supporters in the arena too, and a positive factor, which is important too.
Well, I just wanted to add my 2 cents. I'm sorry Toe wasn't there. He's not going to believe I called in because I keep giving the gears all the time.
I know, that's good though. You should do that more often.
Okay, Greg. Nice seeing you, Chris.
Thanks.
Take it easy, Perry.
Here, bud.
There's a good hockey guy to phone
exactly. I think one of the
what I was saying.
I think one of the other unique points to go along with what Perry was saying about Thunder Bay, and something that we can relate to here, is the Thunder Bay area team, the Fort William team that came up here to play just in the Dudley Hewitt Cup. This team had one player outside of the Thunder Bay area. It was their goaltender was the one player that was not did not grow up in the Thunder Bay system. That whole group of guys, I was talking to the coach, Todd Hallworth, he said, yeah, most of these guys, they played hockey with Eric Stahl since he was 12 years old. And that's one team. That team, those kids all grew up together. That's one team out of, I think there's about 6 teams in that Superior League. I think there's maybe one team from Dryden. The rest of all those junior teams are from Thunder Bay. These kids are playing all together. I mean, we go look at, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, the North Bay Skyhawks were not really a North Bay team. I mean, there was only a handful of North Bay kids. This team was all Thunder Bay kids, all grew up together.
But that's the point. They couldn't use North Bay kids, or they wouldn't have been able to compete.
And you know, the good point you make, that league's only 3 years old out there, too. And they started playing in Rayside, and now it rotates. It's in the south, and it goes back out west. And the old rule in the books were that you had to go, if you came back in, you had to be in 3 years before you could compete for the Dudley Hewitt. And Joe Kootenay out there just didn't accept that. He kicked his heels up, and they came to some agreement, and the NOJHL League agreed to play them, and now they have the Dudley Hewitt contract that rotates around, and each person takes its turn. And they've improved. They had a nice club here, and Thunder Bay is doing something right.
Thunder Bay team at the Cogeco Cup there.
Yes, Taylor Pyatt, Alex Auld, we're on the team. Jason Jaspers, who's playing minor pro.
Yeah, there's some nice hockey.
There's a couple other players, yeah.
They didn't win it, though, did they?
Oh, yes.
They won the final.
Perry made a very, very good point. There's some good talent down in the younger ages, in the 7s and 8s and 9 years old.
I want to ask a question, though, guys, about, Perry talked about the coaching. It all comes back to what happened to those good coaches that North Bay had for all those years? Where are they now? And why aren't there new ones to come up to replace them? The cycle got broken somewhere, I guess.
Well,
is that what happened?
I see some pretty darn good coaches out there coaching. I know Luigi's still been involved. I know Carmen Anello's still involved, and he's been around for years. I know Sean's coached for Sean is Dick's son. He's coached for 4 years before he got involved with his own son at the AAA level back in North Bay. So there's some, if you ask me, there's some pretty good coaches. But at the lower levels, there's guys coming up that are pretty good. You look at that novice team. That novice AA team, they were a beautiful hockey club.
And they had 2 or 3 players that should have been on it, too.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. That might touch on the problem.
Let's get to that problem, then.
That's right. There were some players that didn't want to go to Sudbury because at the novice level the parents didn't feel they wanted to play in the Sudbury Loop. And that's another issue that we can get into for a few minutes.
Let's go. We got a few.
What's happening now is last year at the minor atom level, and I'll only speak for our team, but we played here in the North Bay League, and we were playing your Powasans and Temiskamings, and this year we decided to take the boys and play in the Sudbury Nickel District League. And I'll tell you, the difference in the development of those kids playing in that league was night and day. But you're still, even on our team, we still have parents who don't believe that we should be playing in the Sudbury Loop. So
because of the travel, or
because of the travel, exactly. But each and every game we played all season long, and Dick can verify this, was a competitive hockey game. And North Bay, we were first place until the very last game of the season. We finished 1 point out of first in the Sudbury.
And let me give you one example. We played the Sudbury team out of the Countryside Inn, who had 3 players on there that in the off years in the minors will play AAA hockey. We played them 6 times, and we tied them 2-2 ties, 5 times out of the 6. We had 9 or 10 ties in that league. Yeah, our team alone, and every club had at least 7 or 8 ties. So you're talking 30 games that were ties. You know, it was, the competition was unreal.
Do you think our location, even though, I mean, when you go look at it in the big picture, North Bay's a great city to live. I mean, you're 5.5 hours from Montreal, 3.5 from Ottawa, hour from Sudbury, 3.5 from Toronto. I mean, really, we can get to a lot of really big cities in a hurry, but on a smaller scale, I mean, I think we have a lot of disadvantages. Sudbury has a major Pee-wee AAA team. What do they do? They play
minor Pee-wee AAA.
Oh, pardon me, minor Pee-wee AAA. They play in a Bantam Loop in Sudbury.
Well, the minor Pee-wee AAAs play in the major Pee-wee league.
And the Nickel District League, the same league as we play in.
Just one age group up.
Yeah.
Okay, and the minor Bantams in the minor Bantam AAA, which doesn't exist here, the minor Bantam AAA team in the Sioux plays because of where they're located. They play in a major Bantam AAA loop in the United States.
Yeah, and we could do the same. We could take our minor Pee-wees and play in the major Pee-wee Nickel District League. Yeah, that would be perfect.
Would that be a travel thing? Because I know I ran into the same thing when I was out of AA coaching.
That's what we're doing now, Chris.
Yeah.
We're going over to Sudbury. We went over 14 times. which isn't too, you figure 14 times the entire season, okay? The latest we ever got back, I think, was 11 o'clock, and it was because the bus witnessed an accident. We had to stop. Other than that, it was between 10 and 10:30 we were back. Kids are 10 years old. There's rules that occur where the kids have to have their homework done before, as soon as they get on the bus, that's what they do. They do their homework.
And sleep on the way back.
Well, no, they don't sleep, but they're too wound up to sleep. You've been on a bus with 10-year-olds lately?
No.
They don't sleep. But anyway, they're back 10:30 once a week. Sometimes it happened twice a week. I think maybe, twice, Dick?
About twice, and then
Twice,
you see
yeah.
that again adds to the cost, so you have to put the cost in perspective. If you got 15 or 16 vehicles traveling that road, your risk is just phenomenal. You get on a bus, it's a safety factor, but it adds to the cost. But $20 a parent, and they got the boys' seat and two seats, so $20 for 3 seats on a bus. With the price of gas right now at $1 a liter, I don't think you can drive to Sudbury and back.
No, you can't drive to Sudbury and back for
$20.
that.
At least
All right.
I don't believe you can.
All right, let's take this call. Hi, you're on Sports Firing Line.
Hello, gentlemen. Good evening. How are you doing tonight?
Great.
I'd just like to start off by saying this is the 10-year anniversary of the North Bay Centennial's OHL title, May 11th.
Yes, we mentioned that on the news.
Is it?
Okay, yes, so I'd just like to mention that again. Congratulations once again. And saw an article in the North Bay Nugget about player development for the CHL. Some ideas that are kicking around. Carrying only one 16-year-old for every club, limiting to 2 Americans, and going back down to 1 European. Just wanted your opinion on that to see if you think that proposal would go through and what you think about that.
Is that the Don Cherry proposal?
The European one sounds like it.
That's the same one I spoke about. He's speaking about.
Yeah.
It was another part of it where it involved American, and you get a team like the Sioux junior team that's opposed to it because they have 5 or 6 Americans playing there. But that's all part of a package. That's part of the package where the 15 and 16-year-olds would be AAA, and Hockey Canada is submitting it as a complete package because they had a committee that's worked on that for probably over a year now, and it was made up of mainly junior people that came up with that, and you can't satisfy everybody, but yeah, the NOHA supports that.
Oh, they do, eh?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so you think that's going to...
Well, you never know. I've seen funnier things happen at Hockey Canada. They work a little different. It's a little different beast than we're used to, where you can agree and vote on it. They go into councils, and you think all the councils agree, and then when it gets into preliminary, it doesn't pass, because it's the way the voting goes. But on this one, there's pockets that don't support it. There's a couple of junior leagues that don't support it, and I don't knock them. I mean, they have maybe a huge amount of midgets playing there. But my philosophy has been from day one on the age issue is, what did we have age issues restrictions for in the first place? Why did we even bother? If we're not going to worry about why did we bother? I mean, the NOHA book is 85 years old, and it always had age groups in there, and we've tinkered with them and moved them a year here and there, and maybe not always the right thing to do, but there's nothing new with age groups. It's just now that, I guess, if you're a 14 or 13-year-old and you're playing junior, it automatically means you're going somewhere, and I believe me, when I look at the list of names and see the people that were there and some figures that come out, that doesn't hold true.
Okay, so what do you think about the 116, again, the 116-year-old? I kind of support that because I think that would be still a little too young. I think we should push it up, maybe in the draft, like 17 years old. We should start from there. And what do you think about maybe carrying overagers at, say, 21 years old for junior hockey?
Well, I think that's what happened here was a little bit of give and take on the 16-year-old, because there was a lot of midgets playing there. And it's something that's been allowed to evolve, and I think it affects all the way down, because if you take 10 midgets out of a center, then they're going to take 10 bantams out of a center, and those bantams are going to take 4 or 5 peewees, and I only say 4 or 5 because when you get to the peewee age, maybe there's less of them that have the size that can handle it. So it filters all the way down.
Right, a trickle effect.
Yeah, it has a trickle effect, and I think maybe it's not the perfect answer, but I think it's a step in the right direction. And once it all evens out, I mean, where are all these 20-year-olds gone? Where are they? They got to be. There's got to be some good hockey players out there that are 20 years old that aren't playing hockey.
At the university that are good 20-year-old university hockey.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, thanks, caller. We got to move on. We actually have some calls now, so we got to get to them.
5-2.
Yeah, and it's 5-2. Yeah, hi, you're on Sports Firing Line. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you guys?
Great.
I just want to ask about, you guys talking about boys hockey there. How about girls hockey? What do you guys think of that?
Well, I sit on the OHF board, and they're one of the 7 member partners, and it's a very, very strong organization, probably the fastest growing sport probably in the world, and they've done some phenomenal things. And I think in another 4 or 5 years it'll show up even more. And I support them wholeheartedly. We get along well with the Female Hockey Congress down there.
Okay, what do you think about the North Bay girls hockey? Have you, has anybody seen any games, or have you talked about the possibility of the girls playing in the West Ferris League or anything like that?
I can't speak for the women's hockey, particularly in North Bay, but I have watched it and witnessed it, and my 2 grandsons played against them in their tyke hockey and the way up, and they're doing well.
I talked to Luke, Luke Simon there quite often throughout the winter, and from what he tells me, it's at least his team, they've had phenomenal success. You know, with the development of those girls.
I was just going to add, caller. I don't know if it was this year, but I know last year that the Cannon Ice Cats that Louis Ricci was coaching actually played in the Nipissing Pee Wee House League with the boys, and they, I think, were 8-0. They had won their first 9 or 10 games, so I think that certainly says something for girls hockey around here. Yeah,
and the only thing is, I know in North Bay there's not enough girls. I mean, sometimes you end up with just 10, and that's your team.
Do you coach?
Yeah.
Is that you, Luke?
Yeah.
It is you, okay.
Luke Simon?
Yeah.
The Luke Simon?
Hey.
How you doing, Luke?
Not bad. How are you guys?
Good.
No, it's just a general question because everybody's talking about girls hockey and everything else, and I think it's like Mr. Prescott said, it's a big thing now, and in the next maybe 5, 8, 10 years, it's going to grow phenomenally.
Well, your team is, your team specifically, Luke. I've talked to you since your daughter was just 4 years old, and I've seen you guys have grown immensely with that hockey club.
Yeah, and I mean it's not just the coaching. I mean it's the girls are willing to, they want to be there. Yeah. You know, they put 110% out every game, every practice. And I mean, let's face it, talent comes, you're born with it. It's not something that you always teach.
Luke, are the parental problems any different with the girls than, say, with the boys?
Nope.
No, eh? Okay.
All right, listen.
Thanks, Luke.
I want to thank everybody. We didn't have a lot of calls tonight. We only had 4, but they were all good calls. All asked some valid questions. Mr. Dick Prescott did an outstanding job answering questions and giving us his point of view about the minor hockey situation. Joe Conlon, thanks a lot for coming on. Sadly, you won't be able to see the rebroadcast. Anyway, and I want to thank Chris Dawson for coming on and contributing as well to pretty well any subject we have on this show. Chris always has something good to say. That is it for this edition of Sports Fireline. Next week, we're having a special edition with some guys from the OPP talking about summer boating season. So if you got questions, tune in next Tuesday. We'll be here. Good night, everyone. Thank you.